Hello everyone, my name is Mackenzie Baumgartner, and I'm going to share a lesson with you about traumatic brain injuries. They're also called TBIs. A traumatic brain injury is an injury to the brain that's usually caused by some kind of violent hit to the head. This is often car accidents, falling, or in sports, whether you're colliding with someone else, hitting your head on the ground. If you run into a wall, any time that you hit your head very hard, you're at risk for a traumatic brain injury. TBIs are not caused by trauma at birth or by any kind of degenerative disease. So these are different from other disabilities because they are caused by a specific event instead of being caused by maybe a genetic or a health problem or other issue. So if you look at the picture, the diagram on the bottom right with the two circles, the blue and the red circle and the brains, the blue circle shows a normal brain, and the difference between that brain and the brain in the red circle, is that the brain in the red circle has swelling. When there's swelling in the brain, which comes from a violent hit to the head, that causes issues with the brain cells. It can damage the brain cells in that area. It can damage the nerves or the blood vessels. And so if the blood vessels are restricted if they're restricted or compressed, then oxygen can't get to that area of the head. So getting hit in the head is not a good thing, and it can result in various impairments. Some of the changes and challenges that come from traumatic brain injuries include challenges with memory. They may not have good short-term memory. They may lose some of their long-term memories. It depends on what area of the brain is affected. But memory is a very common effect or damaged area. Another issue could be with talking or solving problems, thinking and reasoning. Different areas of your brain are responsible for different functions, and so depending on where you hit your head and which area of your brain is damaged, you will have trouble with those functions. Paying attention and learning is often difficult with any kind of brain injury because somewhere there's damage, and because our brain processes are so complex, especially when it comes to learning, we're trying to absorb information and process it and file it away in our minds, and then we need to be able to retrieve it at a later time. And because that's such a complex process, those with TBIs have a really hard time completing that because usually on one of the steps along the way, there is damage in their brain. Some of the more severe injuries can often cause issues with their senses, whether it's seeing or hearing or even walking. Physical activities may be limited because of brain injuries. So traumatic brain injuries are very common. Actually, 1.7 million people in the U.S. have a traumatic brain injury every year. This, like I said earlier, this comes from a variety of things. Car accidents and sports are some of the main main causes. And so, because it's so common, it's important that we are aware of it. In this video, we're going to watch several different youth who have had traumatic brain injuries. They're going to talk about the challenges they've faced, as well as their parents are going to talk about that. And I think that this is so valuable in hearing firsthand the wide variety of issues that come from traumatic brain injuries.
I guess it's kind of like a big thing to hear. I don't know, and I guess I didn't really comprehend it totally. It was just oh, you have a brain injury, that sounds serious, but I thought I'd be better sooner.
When you have somebody laying there and they can't respond back, Your mind goes in so many different directions.
You leave the hospital with a broken child. You don't know how severe. You don't know what you're left with.
Children deal with being different. Many times, people with brain injuries can become very impulsive. They can have outbursts, very difficult to hold back and take time to think, hard to sustain focus. If there's any physical difficulties, can't be involved in athletics anymore. There are many, many things that children have to contend with, along with the fact that they are children.
When he first came home, his behaviors were, you could tell they were a little more intense. Brandon would make verbal threats towards me.
Towards a lot of people. Anybody.
And that was not Brandon's nature. He was a very mellow, funny kid. So I called the pediatrician. I said, something's not right here.
When I get mad, I swear, throw things.
You have a child now that you didn't think you'd ever have. And it really, maybe it's harder on the moms. I know it was harder on me to accept the change.
We kind of thought, like everyone, it'll be a few weeks, she'll be totally fine, and that's what most of the physicians said.
They just said you have a good old concussion sort of thing and sent me home.
But as it went on, she was really just totally out of sorts. She would forget things in 20, 30 seconds, a brutal headache.
She couldn't handle the stimulation of a lot of different things coming at her at once.
Learning new things is very different than it used to be. It's really frustrating because I used to be the kid that would sit in class and just kind of soak it in and not really have to study and get A's. And now I have to work really hard to take notes and take a lot of time to study things.
Part of what makes it hard is, especially when she's outside and in the outside world, she tries to put on the face and she tries to be happy. And so everybody says, I saw Allie, she looks great, she says she's doing great.
And it's one of those things, I don't have a cast, I don't have a broken wrist, so people don't see it when they look at you. But so they'll just be like, you're looking better, and things like that. And it's frustrating because I'm not going to get mad at them and be like, you know what, actually, I'm not better.
How did you get your head injury?
Car accident.
She was in a coma. Is she ever going to come out of the coma? Can she see? Can she hear? Didn't know if she'd ever be able to walk again. It took a year before we heard her voice.
What were you like when you first came here?
Sleepy.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a lot to say?
No.
Did you want to say a lot?
Yep.
They always told us it's going to be baby steps. It's going to be slow progress. I think just seeing what she was doing and the obstacles that she was overcoming gave us tremendous amount of strength.
These families, despite all of their struggles, are held together by this love and this drive that no matter what their day may bring or no matter what their future may look like, that they just keep plugging away with smiles on their face and with a sense of hope in their heart.
I would have to tell you that it is a long journey, but that there is hope.
Do you give up?
No. Keep going at it.
Do you ever give up?
No.
So I think that is a very powerful video to show the real life experiences when children and adolescents suffer from a traumatic brain injury. It's not just physically traumatic, but it's mentally and emotionally traumatic because they've changed and they know what they used to be like, they know what they used to be capable of, and all of a sudden they can't remember things, or they're angry because for no apparent reason and they lash out. And so it's so important that we adjust our expectations as teachers for these students as they come back to school. We need to know that they're struggling and that emotionally they're struggling, and we need to make sure that we're not expecting them to be the same as they were before. Some of their strong points may now be their weak points. And so That's why evaluation is so critical with students with traumatic brain injuries. And it's ongoing evaluation. At first, an IEP has to be created so that teachers are prepared to meet the students' needs. But it has to be flexible because it's an injury, the brain may heal, and so some things may get better, or some issues may become apparent as things don't get better. So it's important to be understanding and to always be aware of what the student needs, because it's not cookie cutter. There's not a one-size-fits-all. Every injury is different, and so the response to each child must be different. So teachers should learn about traumatic brain injuries. They should learn about the specific injury to the child. They need to learn what area of the brain was affected and what the child needs at this time. In general, teachers should be giving these students extra time to complete assignments. They should give them step-by-step instructions so that they're not overwhelmed, and so that they can be successful. They also should have consistent routines so that as students are getting back into the school setting, they can feel confident moving forward and know what to expect and master the things that they're capable of. The teacher should also check for understanding so that they don't leave a child behind because they just assume that they know or that they're following along. It's also important to keep in touch with the student's parents so that you can share the things that you've observed with the child, what things they're struggling with and what things they're doing well on. Overall, be flexible, love your students, and work with them, because this is a life change. This injury has been life-changing for them, and they need patience and understanding, and they need people that are aware of their inner struggles, because like we saw in the video, it's not always obvious on the outside. These are the resources that I used in preparing this lesson, so if you have any other questions, I strongly recommend going here. It's very helpful. Traumatic brain injuries are scary, but they can be worked through.